Eric wants to, are we good to go? Okay, do we need to do that 5-second countdown? Okay. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and call the meeting to order. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any agenda changes? No, fair enough. Okay. And I did not receive any public comments for this meeting. Communications? None. All right. Then we're going to move directly to board and staff reports. We have a committee on special education report from Shannon Whitney and Matt Burdick.
And Beth and Patty, do you want us to sit in the front, good for you, to still maintain social distancing, or would you like us to stay back here?
No. Yeah, we or do you want us to go to see you? Or, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I want my backside seen.
Right,
why don't you come right here?
Oh,
And why don't you move down this way a little bit? That way you and Matt can both be right here.
Perfect. And I know what time you were all here last night, so I will be pretty quick. Obviously, this is our mandated, we do have to present annually for our special education report. But we do have some really neat things to report, some things that were going really great prior to the closure too. So just on the first page here, you'll see some of the mandatory special education facts. Just some things, we want to improve upon. When you look at some of the state reporting, our classification rate had continued to go up while our enrollment had continued to go down. And you can see the chart on this page comparing it. What I can tell you anecdotally, and had the rest of the year finished, with the change of the reading programs, you could really already see that kids were much more excited about learning. We were already seeing differences in our norm reference standardized testing on the students when we got to the annual reviews. And it was nice, most of our students had that testing done this year, so we could really see the advantages of that. So I hope with another year, hopefully if we get the in-person, we will see those improvements for those students with that new reading series. So hopefully that's something, a trend that will continue to go the right way. Our dropouts, we've met the target, or the graduation rate for students with disabilities, we've met the target, but Matt and I have both talked about a goal is working on our dropout rates for students with disabilities. There's other certificates that our students can earn, even if they do not earn a local diploma or a Regents diploma, they can earn a CDOS certificate or a SAC credential that does not count as a dropout. We worked quite a bit with our 15-to-1 team, have done a really good job creating opportunities for our students to get work-based learning. Hopefully we can make that to be something more integrated at the high school and start our students earlier with that. So it's going to be a goal of ours in the future. Flipping back to the special education facts, I'm not sure, probably some of you realize, Patty said, give yourselves a shout out to what you were doing. We were still required, the IDEA mandates never changed as far as our requirements to do special education meetings for the annual review meetings, all of those pieces. So we were lucky enough to switch right over. The Empower Hours were wonderful. I had never run a Google Meet, but I attended one of Jason Reynolds' meetings. Matt did it with me, and within half an hour, I was able to schedule impromptu Google Meets with my staff, keeping the confidentiality, and so far that had worked very well with our staff. Some could use it, some didn't want to, some used the cell phone, but whether you're using the regular phone, the cell phone, using the technology, we were able to get in our annual reviews, and it really seemed to work out well. The other positive I think we got out of these meetings is you could really see how positively the parents spoke about their teachers, both special education and general education. Again, dwell on the positive of that reading series. You know, they were happy to know where they were in the books, what level they wanted to get to next, because there was some book in there they were trying to get to. The kids were very excited about that. When it comes to our shout outs, I think some of our special education teachers went above and beyond picking up the virtual model to begin with. Karen Donato is usually when I go to people for anything when it comes to Wilson or instruction. And as it was imminent that we were probably not coming back with the kids, she took her Wilson binders, which just wonderful as a teacher that she has them all set. She doesn't have to do extra planning when her kids come in. She's ready to go with those lessons for them. She took them and dropped them off to their houses prior to the last day teachers were really in the buildings on a regular basis. And she set up every half hour. She was doing individual resource room instruction with all of her students daily that wanted it. As we did annual reviews, we found a couple of kids who weren't on board or some who didn't yet have the technology, but by the end she got them all. And if this is something that has to continue it all down the road, we've got some great models with some staff like her. Our related service providers, the same thing. At first they balked a little, but we had guidance for speech under ASHA. Therapies were already approved through ASHA prior to this. So we were able to take that guideline and be able to implement these services. So that kind of takes us onto the Medicaid part. You will see a slight drop, approximately $25,000 is what we're expecting in the Medicaid revenue. We had already billed for $75,000 of that. We have about 3,700 sitting in ready to claim, and then a few other little pieces that will be billed in there. And you can see in the 18-19 school year, that was $106,000 approximately. So we're hoping to fill those gaps. And I'm sure Patty has probably already talked to you about the governor's mandate that came out on June 6th of being able to run the in-person special education ESY programs for our students with significant disabilities. And we are working on some plans for that will be I think very beneficial to our students, get our staff back on board with them, but also very minimize our exposure both to our staff and students, but get them what they need for some of the in-person. So Patty and I have gone through some plans. I've got even more. I did talk to the Saney's lawyer this morning, and I think we really got some good plans in place for that. Carthage in South Jeff are also running in-person ones, and we've got some similar plans, but then still differ based on our populations. But we do all run our own special education programs, so that makes it pretty easy to roll with that because our staff already know our students. So we've got some decent plans. I know you don't want me to go into that in detail, but if you want more information as we get closer, we will continue to share that with you.
Well, I think one of the things that the board would like to hear is that it's really going to be a soft landing to what it could look like in the fall and what we're doing, because you're bringing back 5 students a day. Right?
A maximum of 5 students a day.
And she's doing a blended program with virtual learning and a little bit of, and I think you're clustering students based on their needs. So if they need, for example, speech therapy, you're trying to do some of that clustering and also being considerate of maybe where some people live. So for transportation, and then also trying to work out some of the transportation with social distancing and what that will look like. So there's a lot going into the plan, and it's been very well thought out. So thanks for doing all of that.
And I think it'll be beneficial to our kids to get some consistency back, and really to those families where they can't maybe look at, if they're mandated workers, looking at some of the traditional daycare options are just not appropriate for them. And I think it gets our students back into a swing of things, gets my staff to get their hands on to some of those same kids they're with. But Patty's got a good point on the virtual piece too, that we still are able to offer that virtual. And should we have a positive case or any piece, we're ready to roll right back into that virtual plan and then potentially reopen from there. But say we hit phase 4, I actually have a plan A, B, C, and D, and then I have a plan of moving forward if everything continues to go in a positive way and we get to phase 4. And these are options to parents. We did send out a survey to the parents starting last week, and this Friday is supposed to be the deadline for them to get back to us. For the parents who don't respond to us virtually, I'm going to call them personally, but so far there were 27 students that were in our 12-1-3-1 programs are students with the most significant disabilities that would normally attend the self-contained special education summer school that meets those state ed regulations. I think, and I didn't check the rest of them because Matt and I got talking at the end of the day on some plans that we had. I think probably 12 of those had already come back. And if most parents are like me, if it's due on Friday, I'm turning it in on Friday. So I figure we'll probably get a large number of them on Thursday and Friday, and then that will then determine what we build from there. But there were 3 options for the parents. Did they want to send their child to in person? If not, did they want all virtual? And summer is really a choice for parents with students with special needs, just as it is for our regular ed students. So there were some choices there for them also. And, if they weren't comfortable with some of the options that we might be able to provide with the transportation, would they feel more comfortable providing the transportation themselves? And a few of our families are picking that option right now, but that really gives us good plans. We're not just guessing at it. We know exactly what those parents will want so that we can plan for that. Like I said, celebrations, I can't tell you enough of my related service staff. My staff who wants to work summer school, just awesome. Now Matt has a couple shout outs to give to staff too.
Just a few celebrations for special ed within our district this year. On Wednesday, June 3rd, Shannon and I participated in a senior send-off celebration for our 15-1 students from the high school that will be graduating. So we have 7 students from that program that will be graduating this June from the 15-1 program. We met down in the high school parking lot. We took a parade through the city to those students' homes, provided cards. The families were outside taking pictures. The students were really happy to see their teachers from school. The team of teachers provided a pizza and 2-liter bottle of soda for the students and their families for lunch. And we came back to the office and later that afternoon participated in a virtual presentation slideshow. And our 15-1 teachers had prepared that and had all the students on there and pictures of the students. They had music going in the background, quotes from teachers that they had worked with in the past. And it was just really nice. They coordinated it very well. Patty and I had a chance to speak with those students before getting off the call and just congratulate them. So that's one of the celebrations. The other one, just wanted to commend all of our special education teachers throughout the district for their hard work this year, not only from September to March, but more specifically during the pandemic, and more specifically our special ed teachers that work with our seniors at the high school. Through sitting through these annual review meetings, there's many students that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're headed in the right direction, right on track for graduation. And then you do have a handful of those students that are struggling. And, 2 months ago, sitting in those meetings, listening to the special ed teachers, gen ed teachers, collaborating with the parents and with the students to come up with a plan on what they need to do week by week in order to get on point to graduate this June was just amazing. So all of our teachers have done a great job. Just wanted to send a shout out to those special ed teachers that are working with our seniors. Any questions for Shannon or I?
I'm assuming that that this is one piece of the puzzle that you're putting together, but are there some classrooms that have higher percentages that you're aware of pre-existing conditions, the students with multiple disabilities whose health conditions make them particularly vulnerable?
Yes, absolutely. And that is actually part of the population that is what the governor was looking at, the ones that he put in that June 6th tweet, and then has been followed up. There's been guidance that has come from the Department of Health and then CDC on guidelines to follow there. So I've been able to talk to Ann Snell about that. Like I said, I consulted the lawyers on it too. And the families then within there have their choice, to be able to send them. If we don't offer that option to those parents, that's where we get into the piece of denying them their free and appropriate public education when now this is allowable. So of those letters, Beth, that I sent out to those families, there have been families that have said, no, I do not want my child to come to school. They know, their medical reasons and those other pieces. But
for summer school.
For summer school, yes.
But then in the fall. then it's not an option. Or is it an option?
Anything is always an option for students, whether it's homeschooling, and there's even a piece of the homeschool legislation where parents can choose to homeschool their students but still avail themselves of special education services. So sometimes there's things that you look at in the regular ed law, but that the Part 200 reg supersedes. And really the part that New York State has not been out, cannot get rid of is the IDEA regulations, and that's the federal regulation. And so far, the federal regulations continue to say, you need to provide the free and appropriate public education. Yes, that's appropriate, and that's where the continuity of ed piece has been. It has been nice for us because we've seen other states kind of roll this out. So because they're a little further ahead than we are in their school year and where they are their summer services, their school years would have ended in May and their summer services would have started in June. So we've got a little, better idea of where some of those pieces would be. We'll continue to watch what they do, what guidance they get. And then we'll follow ultimately what New York State tells us, both with our buildings and then from the special education piece too. So we've got to meet both models, but we will do what we need to make sure our students' needs are met, and whatever we're given, we will make sure we get it done.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Thank you for all that you are doing and are going to do. And it's really great that you have that many shout outs to offer. I know the special ed piece reminds me of some of the things that I've read about the really small school districts where administrators have been able to go to every graduating senior. So we've got our little microcosm there. That's really great. So, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to items for the consent agenda.
Resolved that consent agenda items A and B are hereby approved.
Can I have a motion?
Michael.
And a second?
Susie.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas the inspectors of election for the annual school district election and budget vote held on June 60, 2020 have delivered to the clerk of the Board of Education their signed statements and reports of votes cast in said election budget vote, and such statements and reports have now been examined and canvassed as follows. Approval of the 2020-2021 school budget, total number of votes 3,557, yes votes 2,749, no votes 808. Approval of the Proposition 1 Flower Memorial Funding Request, total number of votes 3,528, yes votes 2,622, no votes 906. For the members of the Board of Education, Jason B. Harrington, 2,519, Maria T. Maceris, 2,321, Lori L. Converse, 1,061, and Millie C. Smith, 993. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2021 proposed budget, Flower Memorial Funding Request, proposition, and elected Board of Education members have been approved by the qualified voters of the school district, and be it further resolved that Jason Harrington and Maria Maceris are declared the re-elected members of the Board of Education. Jason Harrington and Maria Maceris will serve a 3-year term commencing July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2023. The district clerk has notified the successful candidates and will send written confirmation.
I'll entertain a motion.
Cody.
And Nancy is going to second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Jason and Maria.
Resolved that the budget transfers to balance expense codes in the spreadsheet for the 2019-20 budget year are hereby approved.
I have a motion for that.
Michael.
And a second.
Maria?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a creation of one 10-month senior typist position as recommended by Patricia B. LeVar, Superintendent of Schools, is hereby approved.
I need a motion for that.
Jason.
And a second.
Susie?
Any discussion?
What's the background of this?
It's a position at Wiley that used to exist. And so, there's somebody that is at Wiley in a 12-month and they're gonna go over into the 10-month position. It's actually a position that's always been there, but then transferred over to Massey and now back over to Wiley.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the following position in the district is hereby abolished. One 12-month senior typist position.
I'll need a motion for that.
Maria?
And a second.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that an agreement by and between the Assistant Superintendent Stacy J. Peter Converse and the Watertown City School District for the period of July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2023 is hereby approved.
Can I have a motion?
Susie?
And a second.
Maria?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Patricia B. LeVar, the Board of Education hereby approves the following: resignation, appointments, probationary instructional, term, non-probationary, summer school.
I need a motion for that.
Michael.
And a second.
Nancy?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a 3.5 salary increase for Tina M. Lane, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel and Student Services for the 2020-2021 school year is hereby approved.
Can I have a motion for that?
Jason.
And a second.
Go.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that an increase of either 3.5% or $12.50 per hour, whichever is higher, for the transportation aides and new monitors is hereby approved.
Can I have a motion?
Michael.
And a second from Maria. Any discussion? I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. So an increase of 3.5% or a dollar amount of $12.50, not a
Right.
increase of $12.50.
Correct. Minimum wage goes from $12.50 January 1st.
Just wanted to be clear. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a 3.75% salary increase for the 12-month exempt and central office administrative staff for the 2020-2021 school year is hereby approved.
Is there a motion for that?
Susie?
And a second.
Jason.
Any discussion? This is the result of some ongoing adjustments, correct?
This is actually people that aren't specifically tied to a bargaining unit. So it would be, some of our assistants, some of the other people that work in this area. And it's always been consistent with the clerical bargaining unit.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a 3.5% salary increase for Joshua W. Hartshorn, School Business Manager for the 2020-2021 school year is hereby approved.
I need a motion for that.
Michael.
Okay, Michael, and Cully is the second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved, a 6-year subscription for ELA 7-8 to Amplify ELA is hereby approved.
And I'll entertain a motion for that.
Maria,
And a second.
Jason.
Any discussion?
is this curriculum, is it reading series?
It is a middle school ELA program. I guess I wouldn't categorize it totally as a reading series, but it does involve the use of full-length texts plus student materials that are both virtual and in print. The reason that we seek your approval is because the price per student is almost a third of what it would be for a 1-year subscription if we went with a 6-year subscription, feeling that because Case is on an improvement plan right now and had a lot of discussions with the ELA team and the math team over the past 2 years about curriculum development, that they've decided to go in the direction of a formal program rather than designing their own units. We felt that a 6-year subscription would give us ample time to really feel out the use of the data associated with it, as well as the programmatic aspects, kind of find their feet with it, and really see what works for students.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Then we can move directly into items for discussion and information, starting with the superintendent of schools report.
Just like to thank Shannon and Matt for coming tonight and giving you the updates from special ed. I know we gave a shout out to them last week for their senior celebration, but it rings true for really all classrooms, special ed teachers, all staff members that have really stepped up during this pandemic to really support our students. I'd also like to give high regards and special thanks to Lisa Blank and Sally Parker and Stacy and Tina, because we've done an incredible amount of work since March 14th and put a lot of information out on the website, School Messenger, Peach Jar, and Sally and Lisa were getting information fed from Tina, Stacy, and I multiple times, and sometimes it was at very bizarre times of the day and or evening. And they were always posting, even the election results. I didn't actually send them to Sally Parker at 2 o'clock this morning, but if I did, I guarantee you they would have been on the website. And so I at least waited until 6:30 this morning to send them out, and they were there shortly after I sent them to her. I also spoke with Rachel Burt this morning, the reporter from the Times, and we talked a lot about the election and the number of ballots that had been returned. She was asking, my opinion on the absentee ballot process and, moving forward, because we had that much of a turnout, what might it look like in the future? So 2 things. We decided for me to look in the archives here in the district, and she was going to look in the archives at the Times to see if we could go back and really determine what kind of elections the school board had years back. Because even in our short look back, we were only able to find an average of maybe 530 votes over the last just 4 years. And then even going back 10, it didn't really vary that much. So we're going to do a little digging just to see, because we may have made history. We don't know. But also, I'd really like to commend the election inspectors that Michelle recruited to come out. We could have stopped multiple times, but it was their determination and strong will to keep going when other districts stopped and paused and waited and came back today. They really just wanted to go until it was finished. And I know that, Josh and Michelle and I were, we were kind of almost dozing off waiting because we weren't able to assist them at all. And it was very frustrating for us. We were not allowed to touch the envelopes or even help unfold ballots. And Stacy and Tina had been here earlier, as well as Beth. And just to see their determination and drive and how they had to take, all the envelopes apart and put all of the ballots in the boxes and then unfold them all and count them all out. They did an incredible job. But also learning from that process, moving forward, the second piece to that is, so what will it look like in the future? And we really don't know. And I said to Rachel, I think the learning for us is, people need a choice. So the people that really liked the absentee ballot process, and I heard a lot of people say this was great for me because I didn't have to think about it. The envelope was there. Our directions definitely could have been better, and that's something we can improve on. But going forward, we also have to do a better job at making sure that people understand the whole process of an absentee ballot. So that if you put any marking, I'm sure that there's somebody in the community, I don't know who they are, but they wrote "stay well" on the ballot, and that disqualifies that ballot. So even though it was a well-intended thought, it's about training and educating and getting people to understand that you can simply follow the directions, check yes or no, and then check 2 candidates. We had, some write-ins too, but sometimes I believe even after 2 candidates were checked, people thought that they needed a sign where it said "write in." I think that they may have mistaken that for a signature. So although there was a small number, I think it's an opportunity for us to just put that out next year on our website. If people are going to request an absentee ballot, if that's where we're at next year, that we really do a good job at explaining how to be successful with your ballot to make sure that it counts. So we're giving people that choice, and hopefully next year we'll be back to a place where we can, be back in person. And I can just tell you that Josh and Michelle and I were extremely excited by 2:30 in the morning when we figured out that the budget passed, because we don't know what would have happened if we don't know even what's going to happen for districts whose budgets don't pass, what that will look like for a revote. But I can tell you, this was a very time-consuming process. Right now, we estimated 35,000. It's about 34,600, but we don't have the business reply bill yet. So it will be actually a little bit more probably than 35,000, but we were in the ballpark with that. So very expensive. But again, the 6 election inspectors, and again, because this is a new process for us and learning, if we ever had to do that again, I think we would probably double the number that we have. But it was a good process.
We don't have any control over the absentee ballot eligibility though, do we? I mean, that is a state determination of what's allowable for using an absentee ballot.
Yeah, there are guidelines that come that what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, but it's good for us to inform the community. And again, you just have to have a good set of directions, and then maybe even a video or some sort of a tutorial where people who have access to the internet could look at it, or get out in the media and make sure that people really understand, because I'm sure other school districts had similar problems.
Yeah, sure.
And that's it for me.
Okay. Are you up next?
So first, thank you for approving me for continued employment. I think, some of you may know that the reason that I first applied here was because of Patty. I had an opportunity to work with her when I was at BOCES and had a really great experience. So that's what really brought me to Watertown, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue working with her, because now that we have Tina and Josh, the team is just really solid, and I'm really excited to continue on the path that we're on, so thank you for that opportunity. Just a couple of updates. First, just to keep you in the loop on where we stand with the Empire State After School Program grant. It's been a really bumpy road for that grant. We were approved for a 5-year award in the summer of 2017, slated to begin on September 1st. But we first had to work with the Office of Child and Family Services to have an approved contract. That took an 18-month process of going back and forth. I have a 3-page, almost 4-page communications timeline of things that I've completed for them and then have been asked to change. We've had a switch in program managers, and to date, we've received $0 in funding. So in talking with our subcontractors, Cornell Cooperative Extension and the Watertown Y, we've come to a decision that at this point, we can't sustain programming any longer without some sort of recourse in funding. So we have reached out with Stephanie Graff's help at Cornell and Denise Young at the Y, because they are also experiencing similar issues with a grant that they received with us this year, the After School Advantage Grant, which was supposed to support Ohio and Wiley. That has yet to take off as well. We've reached out to legislators, and we are also working with our legal team to see what kind of recourse we have. But just to keep you in the loop on that, we are probably going to suspend programming if we can't get any funding. We've incurred almost $500,000 to date, and that's without full full implementation of the program because of the delayed contract implementation and of course COVID. Onto some positives. I would just like to name these staff members by name because as Patty mentioned, Lisa Blank has been really instrumental in the support of our district with moving to virtual style everything. But there is a team of staff members who have exhausted hours of their own time, both during the day, but also at night and on the weekends to plan, to provide support to their colleagues. And I think they just deserve, to have their names heard in public because this has been a really big lift and without these people, we couldn't have done it. So bear with me, but thank you to Lisa Blank, Tara Elmer, Nathan Nadlin, Jennifer Phelps, Nadine Britton, Valerie Robert, Nicole Lamica, Julie Swenson, Ashley Walbrol, Amanda Durden, Carissa Dickinson, Kathy Freers, Amber Misercola, Jessica Brown, Jean Hinckley, Jamie Lee, Madison Draper, Dennis Polakowski, Jason Reynolds, Sarah Gleason, Jennifer Surratt, Melinda Johnson, Jennifer Akins, Jerry Gosier, Amber Netto, Abigail Wilcox, Aaron Loveland, Mike Shanley, Dave Hopkins, Daphne Batista. If I've missed anybody, I apologize, but these people have gone above and beyond the call of duty to, provide trainings, office hour support, and just lend a listening ear when people were struggling with technology or just needed a question answered. So that was amazing, and we probably wouldn't be where we are without them. So they were amazing. Quick curriculum update for you. You did approve Amplify ELA for grades 7 and 8 ELA next year. I believe I shared with you that Math 7 and 8 previously were considering Open Up Resources, which uses the illustrative mathematics foundational curriculum, and they are moving forward with that. The 6th grade team is also in the throes of making a final decision for curriculum. They are also looking at illustrative mathematics, either with Open Up Resources, which is a great place to start because it is primarily free. It's all open source resources, but there are several vendors that offer that curriculum with some with slightly different twists. So they are looking at the different vendors to see what options are available to them. I also have for you just a printed copy of the summer's PD calendar, so you can take a look at that as you please. We have probably not as many offerings this summer simply because we can't have very many people in person. But some of the work that our coaches and our technology integration specialists are doing are really looking at the redesign of instruction. So if we have to be virtual in the fall, how do we help support teachers in planning engaging lessons? Because as you know, one of the problems across the country, and it's certainly present in Watertown as well, is making sure that all of our students engage with instruction if they're at home. We've had about half of students regularly participate, but we need more than that. Summer school is in full swing just about as far as the planning sessions. We have 5 teachers for K-4, 4 teachers for grades 5 and 6, 3 teachers for grades 7 and 8, and right now we have 12 teachers for grades 9 through 12. So again, limited programming, but trying to do the best we can while still offering virtual. We know that families are tired, staff is tired, and virtual doesn't seem to be optimized for learning right now in the way that it is currently in existence. And I think people are looking for a little bit of a break, but we do have students who are enrolled, and so we're excited to offer them programming for the summer. That's it.
Tina.
I'd like to thank the board for the salary increase and more than that for the opportunity to work here in the district with Patty and Stacy and Josh and the rest of our team. It's truly incredible to work with such a talented, dedicated group of individuals. It truly is. And just looking forward to continuing our work together. There's some exciting things coming up and we're looking forward to moving the district forward. So, and I have to give some thank yous too. It's kind of surreal the last few months here, everything that's been going on. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Nancy Laverty and Tamara Baldwin and Lisa Warden in the payroll office and in my office for the work. Nancy and Tamara have been here every day. they're making sure everybody gets paid, they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and we have many conversations. We have a very transparent system in the office, and Lisa's always there to help too, so they really do a lot in the background to keep things going, so I can't commend them enough. And of course, our food service staff, working with Craig and Mary and Jason with maintenance, you could pick up the phone and call someone and they're right there, and we get things done, and it's incredible. Some exciting things going on. A couple of weeks ago, we were trying to brainstorm, and I had a group of people in here. Lisa Blank is going to be mentioned again, George Emmerich. We had a couple of our nurses here, and what we've done is this whole COVID experience has propelled us forward, I think, in light years in terms of technology. We've done things that we had a 5-year plan for. We've done them in 5 minutes sometimes, it seems. So one of the things that we did, and that talented group of people did, is they came up with an online fall sports sign up, and that just doesn't involve filling out your name and signing up for what sport you want to do. They actually Lisa actually sat here and created the forms while we were here. She had them done and posted. So students can get on, they can fill out athletic consent forms, they can register, they can fill out the team behavioral standards form. There's printable forms there for them to fill out. The nurses are working in the background to make that all happen. We're doing it virtually. And this is something that would have taken months to plan, but we knew we had to do it because we wanted our kids to have the opportunities in the fall. We don't know what it's going to look like in terms of sports. We want to make sure we're proactive. We're working with our school doctors on physicals and meeting with them. So just thanks to that group, because we're really, I think, moving forward. And we've had some bumps in the road, as any process has, but we've been very pleased with that as well. And I'd also like to thank our social emotional team as well. They've been doing some great work. We went over to Food for Families today and had many volunteers there who are reaching out to families. They just have such a finger on the pulse of our kids and our families, and so that they're doing a great job as well. Today, I had the pleasure to meet with Heather Lupia from North Country Family Health Center. What we wanted to do is we kind of wanted to have a closure to the year and then plan for the future. So we did some celebrations there. We have such a great relationship with them. Heather's very grateful to work with our district as well. She said that she really enjoys working with our district, and it goes very smoothly. They offer a variety of services from dental to mental health to medical, of course. And we're making some plans. I've actually worked with the nurses and done some site visits around the district in terms of social distancing some of our clinics and what's going to work next fall. We know that that's probably going to be the case, and so we may need to make some changes. So Heather and I met today. We're moving forward. We're going to actually at the high school switch where the clinic is and where North Country Family Health is. We feel our high school clinic should be closer to the office and more accessible. And so Heather and I work together. That's going to happen right around June 30th. So we're excited about that. And we're making some changes around the district too, with just where people are located and the flow of traffic in and out of the clinic. So the nurses have been working in the background on doing reentry plans as well. But really, we kind of have to pause on that because we have to wait and see what the governor tells us and those different task force that are going on. So we are certainly waiting anxiously to move forward with that. And then finally, as you can see from the agenda, much work with hiring has taken place over the past month. We're still doing interviews virtually. We did science interviews today again. That's been going very well. We hired, of course, elementary teachers, science teachers. We're doing senior typist interviews tomorrow. We have a full slate, 12 people are interviewing for that, which we're excited about. Aides, directors, and again, we're going to hold these virtually, and the discussions have been very, very good, and we appreciate everybody's participation on the committees.
My turn. I did not prep any thank you lists like everybody else seems to. Thank you guys for the prior approval. Thank you for voting yes on the budget, as well as everybody out there that did as well. It makes that a little bit easier. So that's a major positive. Another positive yesterday. We received a rate of 0.8% on our bond anticipation note. That's about half. So we'll be paying less than half the amount of interest is what we did last year on the same, relatively close to the same amount that we borrowed for the capital project. So that's good. That's really it. I'm going to keep it brief since we were here late. We have audits, external on the 27th of July, and the internal has been pushed out until August 10th.
a little breathing room.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, but somewhere in there is transparency reporting that we're gonna, in your inflows.
Well, upcoming dates on the list here, the most important one for most people in the community is graduation on Saturday, June 27th. Remember that there's a parade at 11 and a virtual graduation ceremony at 1:30. And if there are board members who want to be part of the cheering section, who should they call?
You could call the high school and speak with Chad Fairchild or Aaron King, or I think that they were planning on having us park up here at Wiley and then walking down, and I think that they were hoping that you would be near the front of the high school. So, maybe we can cheat, park over at Tops and walk across the street.
No.
Right?
Yeah. And our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, July 7th at 4 p.m. here at the district office. It's the annual organizational meeting. If there is any need to meet prior to that on personnel matters, we will call a special meeting that will be held only for that business. So, but at this point, we don't have anything specific scheduled. We don't usually get to this point at this hour where I can invite people to bring up things that weren't on the agenda that they wanted to share. Okay, well then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Susie?
And a second.
Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all, and thank you for the attendance if you were watching us virtually.
Everybody